I've noticed there seems to be a lot of curiosity around Tummo these days. And while I think that's great and I'd like to encourage that, what concerns me is the amount of misinformation or lack of information about what Tummo really is and what the deep purpose is of this beautiful practice. So I would like to add to this conversation and help to clarify. Hi, I'm Farah of Tibetan Healing Movement, and the purpose of this video is to give some more real information about what the practice of Tummo is. I've noticed some videos and articles that have come out in the last months, year, where people are just kind of teaching something and then slapping on the word Tummo there. And that really concerns me because Tummo is a profound practice. And when you use the word Tummo, you're invoking a deep, deep, rich tradition. And Tummo is absolutely inseparable from Tibetan Buddhism. It is completely interwoven with the goals of Buddhism. So to suggest that it can be separated from it or somehow the practice could be extracted from the principles of Tibetan Buddhism is just completely wrong. It's wrong. And I don't know, to just teach a little simple breath practice and call it Tummo is really careless and it cheapens it. So I trust that the people who are doing this mean well. I really do believe that they want to help people and that they have the best of intentions. But the thing is that when you talk about something that you're not qualified to talk about, and you speak from a place of ignorance, it causes harm. And the harm might not be immediately apparent, but it's real. And what you're really harming is Buddhism itself. You're disrespecting one of the highest practices. It's one of the highest tantric practices. Tummo comes from the 6 yogas of Naropa. It has a rich, rich tradition, and it's so multifaceted. So, okay, let me back up a little bit here. So Tummo is commonly referred to as the inner fire practice. It doesn't mean inner fire, like I've heard some people say, and it's also not a deity, like I've also heard mentioned. So actually, Tummo, the root has two roots. The Tibetan word, the tum, refers to courage or bravery, and the mo is a feminine modifier. So taken together, basically means courageous female, which is really beautiful. Um, and there's a reason why, in the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, lineage and transmission are really, really important. So, this means being able to trace who your teacher is, who their teacher is, the whole line of masters that you stand, they're at your back. There's a reason for it. The lineage and transmission keeps the high quality of the teachings. This is why they're able to withstand the test of time over so many generations and centuries, that we're able to still receive these practices and benefit from them. It's because of the inherent respect and responsibility that comes out of lineage. So, what I'm saying is, if you can't clearly say in which lineage you're sharing a practice from, or what teacher you received the transmission from, you probably shouldn't be talking about Tummo. So, who am I? What lineage am I teaching from? I'm really glad you asked. That's a good question. So, my teacher is Tulku Lobsang Rinpoche. And I have been a student of Tulku Lobsang's for over 18 years now. I work for his organization, which is based in Europe, and I've organized many tours from him. I've organized many Tummo retreats and attended many Tummo teachings of his over the years. And I am not at all claiming to be an adept or an expert, not in the slightest. I wouldn't dream of it, because I have a glimpse of how profound this practice is and how deep it goes. There's a reason that the Tibetans in the monastery would practice for so many years upon years upon years and receive empowerments and initiations, because it goes so deep. So, okay, Tummo, the inner fire practice. People seem to think that it's about withstanding the cold. Just from the inquiries I get from people and the things I hear tossed around, it's not about withstanding the cold. It just isn't. I mean, if you're cold, put on some clothes, do some jumping jacks. It's not that hard to feel some inner heat. You hold your breath for a little bit and jump around, bam, you got inner heat. But that's a very superficial inner heat. It comes fast, it's super quick to generate, and it's very surface. It's between the skin and the flesh, and we're not interested in that. It's not the point. And it's also not about drying wet sheets sitting in the snow half naked. That's something that gets tossed around all the time. That was actually a test. That was a test. It's an outer indication or sign of things that are happening internally. Nobody cares if you can dry 10 wet sheets in a row. How does that offer any benefit? It doesn't. It's just a test to indicate that you have control over that heat. But the real heat, the profound, deep warmness, actually, is very concentrated. It develops really gradually, and it's soft, and it's not throughout the whole entire body. It's very concentrated in the channels. And so then, one needs to understand the anatomy of the subtle body and the channels, where the channels go, the shapes of them, understanding the red and white essence. There's a lot of depth here. So to suggest that a simple little exhale breathing practice is Tummo, it is just not right. You don't learn Tummo in a 15-minute YouTube video. And I don't know, like I hear reference to this Tummo breathing. Tummo breathing. I mean, what is that? I've never heard a real teacher ever use that term. You don't find it in any of the texts. Tummo breathing. Actually, there's so many different aspects to Tummo. There's a lot of preparation and preliminary that needs to happen. You need to lay the foundation. So there is a whole set of body training, exercises, and complex movements that are about opening blocks so that things go in the right direction. And then there's a whole other phase where you train the breath. You're training the wind energy. And this is actually Tsalung. So Tsalung is another practice in the Tantrayana tradition. This is something that I teach, that I'm certified by Tulku Lobsang to teach. I teach in the Kala Chakra tradition. and it's about breath retention. So, and you train this, you really need to learn the proper way. There's several steps that are involved in a breath retention for it to go the right way. Okay, so there's the preparation of the body and the exercises, and then there's the breath portion, and then there's the mental training, the focus, the layer of the visualizations, which is really important for directing the Tummo inner warmth the right way. And so it seems like there's just this like regurgitation of information. You know, I've tried to find people's sources. It's challenging because they don't really have sources, apparently. As best as I can tell, it seems to trace back to Wim Hof. I don't know if he just, some years ago in a class tossed out carelessly the word Tummo, referring to some breath thing that he was doing. I don't know. I mean, he clearly says on his website, he does have a page about Tummo because there is, for whatever reasons, people have been led to believe that he's somehow teaching Tummo. But he says clearly himself that it's not. And it isn't. He's not teaching Tummo, not even in the slightest. Anyway, I don't want to be controversial. I'm really not trying to ruffle feathers. I'm really, really not. All I'm saying is that Tummo is a very deep, profound practice. The goal of Tummo is not to get hot. The goal of Tummo is nothing short of enlightenment. And that's why the Tantrayana path is often described as like this direct path to enlightenment. It's the most experiential, and it's an inner alchemy. So what happens is that we generate this subtle inner warmth in a very specific way, and this inner heat dissolves blocks. Okay, so physical blocks in the channels, energetic blocks, also mental blocks, karmic things. So this inner fire is very special, and it dissolves blocks. But then through a whole series of cascading effects, it generates bliss. So Tummo is very, very interconnected with the bliss practices. And then now here is another really, really big subject. Bliss is not just some pleasurable feeling. Bliss is actually more of a state of mind. When one is experiencing bliss, you're beyond thought. This is how you tap into the non-conceptual awareness. And from this place, one has the possibility of having realizations of emptiness, another really deep subject. So this union of bliss and emptiness is what begins to give us a glimmer of a taste of who we really are, and discovering our true nature, our Buddha nature, clear light awareness, infinite awareness, mind beyond thought. So, we're so fortunate today. At the tips of our fingers, with the click of a button, we have access to so many practices and traditions and religious philosophy. And this is a really beautiful thing, and it's something to be incredibly grateful for. And we should never take that for granted. And to speak about and teach about things that we're not qualified to teach about is disrespectful, and it's careless, and it does cause real harm. So I hope that through this video I can add another layer to the conversation, and to help direct the curiosity that I'm seeing bubbling around Tummo in a more positive and beneficial direction, and by really giving people a little bit of a sense of how deep this path goes, and to really do your research. And yes, I'm going to be doing a series of videos like this to help bring some clarity to this. So I do look forward to your feedback. And again, I mean all the best. I really do. And I know that everyone's just trying to be happy and healthy. And I just want to encourage that. And at the same time, to honor the traditions where we receive these practices from. Thank you very much. See you soon.